Hey guys, Seth here to help you level up your fandom. Say you've got this nice 3D print that you've just finished in your single print color, but one color is boring. So on this one, we're going to check out paints. How are you going to finish it up? We've got standard acrylic, we've got some hobby enamel you guys may be used to. I've even got some primer and spray paints, and just because I had it lying around, some interior paint. So we're going to try them all out and see which one is best for finishing up your 3D prints. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Now, I know I showed this sweet Power Rangers belt buckle that I've been working on as my little intro piece, but this not only takes forever to print, but it's also rather large, and I want something a little more uniform, a little smaller, that we can just have a bunch up to test. So I will be using this Futuristic Dice model from Thingiverse user Dr. Glass DPM. There will be a link to this model in the description. You guys can check it out. It's actually a really cool little dice model. I like it a lot. So I'll print up several dice and we'll go over that. I'll use this model to kind of deal with the details of the prints. What I'm going to be looking for is how each paint will cover up the layers or make them less annoyingly obvious. I will also be looking for ease of use, color vibrancy, all of that good stuff. So let's start by talking about some of the paint that I'm going to be using. I've got acrylic here. This is Basics by Liquitex. Very good, very cheap acrylic paint. I like it because it's thick, it's very consistent, it's nice paint for the price. I paid about $6 US for a tube like this. It's 118 milliliters, and that definitely lasts quite a while. Another thing I really like about acrylic paint is the color is extremely consistent. So you can see on this open source hardware cufflink that I've got printed, the color is almost the same from what's in the bottle to what's dried, which is really nice. A lot of paints aren't quite like that. Secondly, I've got hobby acrylic paint. Now, this stuff is also extremely easy to come by. You can get it at the same place you can get decent acrylics like this. Each jar is about $1.50-ish, depending on the color. $1.50 a jar. It's a quarter fluid ounce, which is 7.4 milliliters. And the colors produced are extremely vibrant. They're almost 100% true to the color, such as enamel. When it comes out of the paint or out of the jar onto whatever you're painting, that color profile is almost exactly the same. The downside to enamel is you need thinner. Unlike acrylic, which is water soluble and you can rinse your brushes out with water, enamel, you need paint thinner to rinse everything out. Which means that if you spill it on your pants or it's on your desk, it's going to be very, very difficult to get that paint out. It also means your paint brushes are going to be a little more difficult to clean. Paint thinner, as anybody who's ever used it can tell you, is pretty nasty stuff. It's like acetone in that same sort of vein. You don't want it on your skin for very long. You don't want to breathe it for sure. It will wear through a lot of stuff. It's definitely some pretty nasty stuff. But you'll need it to clean and dissolve out that enamel paint. This jar is in the same place as these jars when you buy them, and this one I think cost me about $2, and this is plenty of enamel to last quite a while, or thinner to last quite a while. Next up, we've got spray paint. I've got here some primer. Spray paint's really good because it's about $3.50, $4 a can, but it provides extremely even coverage and very consistent coloring as well. What's on the cap is pretty much exactly how it's going to dry. Another good thing to note about primer itself is you can get something called high fill primer, which is generally used for automotive applications, but high fill primer will really help to smooth out the layer lines here. So you can just spray this on, it's very even, and it will make a much more consistent layer profile for your 3D prints. And then last but not least, just because I had it lying around the house, we're going to try interior paint. This stuff is interior semi-gloss enamel. It's an offshoot, so someone requested a color similar to this, but it wasn't this color, so they couldn't sell it. So I got this really, really cheap as kind of an offshoot kind of thing. Really handy. and we're gonna give it a try. One thing I do like about it is I can still use my paintbrush with this, so all the details of the models will still come through just like acrylic, and it's even the same kind of consistency. It dries about the same amount of time, so interior paint and acrylic will be in the same vein as far as paint style and paint itself goes. I talked about the paints a little bit. Now hey, future Seth, while you're editing this, cut to a time lapse right now. Whoa, I think I would have remembered doing that. Well, you should always listen to past Seth, so time lapse. Okay guys, we're here at my little workspace to get the painting started. Now as you can see, these prints suck. I don't know why. These dice failed like 5 times before I got a finished print out of them. And I'm really not sure why. You can see these first few layers here just sucked all the way through. The rest of the die is fine. It's just this first section here on all of them. They're all terrible. And I really couldn't tell you why. But I think that that's a good thing, because we can use this to help illustrate what the paints will and will not cover, and you know, just the general coverage. Now, I've got 4 dice, 4 method of painting. We will do 1 for each: acrylic, enamel, spray paint, which will have to be done tomorrow, and the interior paint, which is on the floor there. Now, I've got what is the color here? A flat red, which is a bright flat red, and a flat sky blue. Yes, flat sky blue for the enamels. For the acrylics, I've got similar colors: a cadmium red medium hue, which is pretty, like, it's close to a primary red. Actual primary red in acrylic paint looks like garbage. So cadmium red medium hue is where it's at. I've also got cerulean blue, which is the same thing I used for my open source hardware cufflinks, so it lends this nice, like, flat kind of light blue color, which is about as close to the enamel as I can get. For the interior paints, we've got that same gallon that I told you guys about before, which is something like this color. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's like that. And I did not have any bright red interior semi-gloss enamel, so we're going with good old-fashioned purple. So one of these die will be blue and purple instead of blue and red. Spray paint, I've got standard blue and red. I will also be primering the spray paint one, because that's what you do with spray paint. Now, my setup is as follows. I've got my dice, my paint brushes. I've got some assorted random brushes that I use all the time. Paper towels in the back for drying off paint brushes and stuff like that. I've got my thinner. Got a little cup of water, and my paints. Yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so first things first, pick a die at random. We're gonna go with this one. I'm going to be doing acrylic first, so we'll bring these out. Now, each of these will be blue all the way around, and then I will go back and redo the insets here, the recesses, in the red. So don't need that just yet. We're going to start with the blue, and then I'm going to paint the entire thing blue, let it dry for a minute, and then come back with the red. I'm also just going to be dipping straight into the tube, because I think that that is an easier way to do small little pieces like this. That way I don't have to put a bunch of paint on something and then go that way. This tends to be easier. Okay guys, so as you just saw, we've got our dice here. I've got a little cheat sheet here if you can read it. Just kind of overview a little bit as I'm talking here. Starting with acrylic, we've got, as you guys can see here, it looks pretty good. It is my standard because it's cheap and easy and all that good stuff. But it takes a while to paint with because you have to go over it at least twice. You have to give it at least 2 coats. And that it tends to be tedious. Next up, we've got enamel. This was the first time I'd used enamel on 3D prints. I've used it for years on models and stuff as it's intended. But as you can kind of see here, the flat sky blue actually remained pretty glossy. The flat red is dead flat. It doesn't quite look like it because of the hard lights I've got, but it is very flat. The blue, on the other hand, is not. You can also see I only did 1 coat of each of these, and you can see how it's kind of wearing out. Like, you can rub that off, so this will definitely need to be clear coated. Whereas the acrylic, you can definitely like scrape it off and stuff, but it stays on against your fingers a lot better. So clear top coat on the enamel, but other than that, it's extremely easy to work with, goes really quickly, and more importantly, it's cheap and small. These little jars are perfect for little detail work like this because you don't have to have some giant tub of paint to deal with it. Next up, we've got the house paint. Interior semi-gloss enamel, which I was 100% shocked with. You can kind of see my lines on the inside were terrible, honestly, because I was getting super hungry and this and that. My hands were shaking. I had what was called programmer hands. Too much caffeine, not enough food. So you can see that the purple is very much not inside the lines. But outside of my terrible paint job, house paint is actually a really good option. The coverage was amazing. I only had to do 1 coat of each of these. It took almost no time at all. Most of the time that was involved was stirring and mixing the paint cans so I'd get a consistent color again, like you have to do with house paint. You have to mix it every time you use it, really. The colors themselves are really nice. I'm a big fan of the purple and blue, actually. So I think I might reprint this and paint it a little nicer. I really like the colors. Lastly, we have spray paint, which for obvious reasons, and you kind of knew going in, this was going to be the most difficult one to get these insets painted because spray paint is a complete coverage kind of thing, so it's really difficult to do lines and detail work. I did this really quickly, definitely not up to par with my standard quality of painting, so if I was to do this like as not just a test, I would spend a lot more time on the paint and more importantly more time on the painter's tape, covering and cutting out each of these inlets so that I'd get the proper amount of coverage. Like you can see here, this is missing. To get the proper amount of coverage and the proper coating on the paint. Outside of my shoddy workmanship again, the paint's really nice. Spray paint has really good coverage. It's completely consistent color and everything will always kind of look that same sort of glossy full print coat kind of thing. Spray paint is very good at exactly that. So, comes down to it, which one do I choose? Well, it's a difficult question because there's uses for all of these, but I will be foregoing my acrylic. I won't be using that as my standard anymore, and I will be switching, depending on the needs, to house paint or enamel. These two were just such a pleasure to use that they are easily the best paints for the job. The house paint was extremely shocking how much I liked it. It was so easy to deal with, the colors were great, everything about it was just incredibly nice. Water soluble, which is always good. And the coverage was amazing. I really don't have anything bad to say about it. The only downsides to using house paint is that it's very expensive. Like, the gallons run in the 30 to 50, 60, 100 US dollars, sometimes depending on the type of paint, which is why I love Home Depot. After I did this review last night, or I painted this one last night, I liked it so much, I went to Home Depot and actually bought some 100 mile per hour color bright red house paint. Now what's great about this is you can see this is very premium. It's a color sample, which is plenty of paint. You can see the size compared to, like, you know, my Enamel or other whatever else you like. Plenty of paint. It's what, 7.5 fluid ounces? So there's so much paint in here, but since it's a paint sample meant to be mixed as a specific color and used just to test on a section of your wall, if the color works out, they're extremely cheap. So you can see how bright and beautiful that paint is. So this sample, which will last me a long time, cost me exactly $3 US, which puts it in the same price point as buying 2 of these enamel jars or a single thing of Basics acrylic paint. Costs about the same as this amazing house paint. And since it's house paint, it's meant to be really high quality interior paint. It's extremely nice paint, which is also why it's like $70 a gallon. But for $3, you can get any color you mix, or any color you want from swatches, mixed into one of these at Home Depot, and it gives you all the paint you could want for months. So, out of all of these recommendations with these dice, I would definitely say grab some house paint, go to Home Depot. It's $3 for one of these. I prefer satin enamel because it lends this like beautiful sort of almost flat finish, but it also gives you a much stronger paint. Now when you do paint plastic with it, you will have to give it a top coat because, as you can see, you can scratch it right off. As house paint is, it's a completely separate layer. It doesn't bond with the plastic at all like spray paint or acrylic does. So you'll have to give this a good top coat. Alright guys, so there you have it. House paint won out as the best paint to use for your 3D prints, as long as you use a top coat. If you don't have a top coat, go with regular old hobby enamel. Some really good stuff there. I will definitely be primering all of these before I paint them, as everybody should, just to give it a really nice coat of paint. And that's it guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of this long video. Shoot in the bottom, hit subscribe if you liked it, give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Leave me a comment, let me know what you guys think of these long format, like in-depth videos. And I'll see you guys later.